For 10 years, she thought she was losing her mind. She wasn't. Someone was stealing it. Every morning, she sat down at her desk, opened her files, and something was wrong. Spreadsheets she had completed perfectly the night before had wrong numbers in them. Documents she had proofread 3 times had profanities inserted into them. Vacation bookings she had personally confirmed were suddenly incorrect. For 10 years, she reported these errors. For 10 years, she was told the problem was her memory, her concentration, her mental health. She was forced to undergo psychiatric evaluations. She lost promotions she had earned. She lost money she could not afford to lose. And she lost something even harder to replace: her belief in her own mind. And every single day, the person responsible for all of it sat close enough to touch her, smiled at her, asked how she was doing, and waited patiently for her to fall a little further. This is not fiction. This is not a dramatization. This happened. In January 2024, IT audit logs confirmed every detail, and the person who did it was never, not even once, suspected. But here is the part that forensic psychologists find most disturbing. She actually liked her. The smiling enemy, the most dangerous person in your life, doesn't look dangerous at all. 10 years, one desk away, January 2024, a routine IT audit. Nobody expected to find anything unusual. These things rarely do, but the logs told a story that nobody in that office was prepared to hear. Over a 10-year period, the audit recorded 1,147 separate unauthorized file accesses, 1,147 times, while she sat 2 feet away. Each access followed the same pattern: files opened after hours, subtle changes made. Nothing dramatic enough to trigger immediate suspicion, just enough to make her look incompetent, just enough to make her doubt herself, just enough to ensure she would never rise above where she already was. The story was reported across verified news platforms worldwide in early 2024, and what stopped people, what made them read it 3 and 4 times, was not just what had been done. It was how long. 10 years. Not a moment of anger. Not a single impulsive act. 10 years of calculation. Sustained. Invisible. Destruction. Stop for a moment. I need you to really understand what 10 years means. 10 years ago, you were a completely different person. Different jobs. Different relationships. Different versions of yourself. Now imagine that from that exact moment, someone sitting close enough to hear you breathe has been quietly dismantling everything you build. Every achievement was undermined. Every success is quietly corrupted. Every time you started to rise, something pulled you back down, and you had no idea. That is not a story about a villain in a movie. That is a Tuesday. For 10 years worth of Tuesdays. Now here is the part that most people covering this story completely missed. It was not the sabotage that caused the most damage. It was what the sabotage did to her mind. And once I explain this, you will never think about trust the same way again. By the time the truth was revealed, she had been psychiatrically evaluated multiple times, formally assessed for memory disorders, told by employers, by doctors, by the institutional systems around her that the problem was internal, that the errors were hers, that her perception could not be trusted. Psychologists call what was happening to her gaslighting at a clinical scale, not the casual way that word gets used online. The documented, forensically verified, sustained psychological manipulation specifically designed to make a victim distrust their own reality. Dr. Robin Stern, published psychologist and verified researcher on gaslighting, describes it as one of the most psychologically damaging experiences a human being can endure, because it does not just hurt you. It dismantles the tool you would normally use to recognize you are being hurt: your own perception, your own memory, your own mind. And here is what makes this case uniquely devastating. The person who did this was not a stranger, was someone she worked alongside every single day. Someone who knew her routines, her schedule, her passwords, her patterns. Someone who had been given, through proximity, through time, through the natural trust that builds between people who share a space for years. Complete access. That access was the weapon. But it was not the most disturbing part of this story. The most disturbing part is understanding the mind of the person who used it. Because what forensic psychologists found when they studied cases like this one will change how you look at the people closest to you. Inside the mind of the smiling enemy, the psychology nobody talks about. Most people ask the same question when they hear this story. Why? Why would someone do this for 10 years? What kind of person sustains that level of calculation, that level of patience, while sitting 2 feet from their target every single day? Forensic psychologists who study workplace betrayal cases have a detailed answer, and it is more unsettling than most people expect. Researchers studying what psychologists call the dark triad, a documented personality cluster consisting of narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism, found a specific behavioral pattern in long-term covert workplace sabotage cases. The perpetrator does not experience the sabotage as cruelty. They experience it as control. Every corrupted file, not an act of malice in their mind, an act of power. Every psychiatric evaluation forced on the victim, not guilt-inducing, satisfying, because the evaluation confirmed what they had been engineering for years, that she was the problem, that they were untouchable. Forensic psychologist Dr. Robert Hare, whose verified published research on workplace psychopathy is among the most cited in the field, documented that individuals with high psychopathic traits in professional environments are statistically rated by colleagues as more charming, more reliable, and more trustworthy than average. Not less, more. The mask is not an occasional performance. It is a permanent and practiced identity that the people around them experience as completely genuine. Here is why that matters for you. Your instincts, the gut feeling you rely on to identify dangerous people, were not built to detect this. They were built for a different kind of threat, the obvious kind. The person who raises their voice, who behaves erratically, who gives you a reason to be cautious. Your nervous system has no alarm system. For someone who is warm, consistent, helpful, and patient, which means the person in your life who has never once triggered your instincts, is also the person your instincts have never once examined. Sit with that. But here is the question that forensic psychologists say matters most. Not why the perpetrator did it. Why couldn't the victim see it? And the answer comes from research that reveals something deeply unsettling about the way every human brain works, including yours. Why you would not have seen it either. Dr. Jennifer Freyd and The Science of Betrayal Blindness. Psychologist Dr. Jennifer Freyd at the University of Oregon introduced a theory that reshaped how researchers understand betrayal. She called it betrayal trauma theory. And what she discovered was not what anyone expected. Dr. Freyd found that when we are betrayed by someone we depend on, someone close, trusted, necessary, our mind does something extraordinary. It suppresses awareness of the betrayal. Not because we are weak, not because we are naive, because awareness of the betrayal would force us to withdraw from someone our nervous system has classified as essential. She called this betrayal blindness. And it is not a character flaw. It is a neurological protection mechanism. Your mind protecting you by hiding the truth from you. A peer-reviewed study published in the National Institutes of Health Research database studied 273 individuals across documented betrayal experiences. The finding was unambiguous. High betrayal traumas involving people the victim was deeply dependent on, caused dramatically higher rates of depression, dissociation, and post-traumatic stress than traumas involving strangers. The closer the person, the deeper the damage. And the longer the blindness lasts. Now return to the woman in our case study. 10 years. Every day, her brain, following the exact neurological pattern Dr. Freyd documented, was protecting her from the truth, because accepting the truth would have meant accepting that someone she trusted completely had been her enemy. From the very beginning, the mind will absorb almost unlimited damage to avoid that single realization. And when the truth finally came, when the audit logs made denial impossible. What happened next is the part of this story that forensic psychologists say matters most, because it was not what anyone expected. The moment the mask came off, January 2024. The IT audit logs do not lie. 1,147 unauthorized file accesses. Every spreadsheet is corrupted. Every document altered. Every career opportunity is quietly destroyed. All of it time-stamped. All of it attached to one name. But here is what the news reports did not focus on. When the truth was revealed, the immediate response from people around her was not outrage. It was disbelief, because the person who had done this was not someone anyone would suspect. While she had spent 10 years being evaluated, doubted, and diminished, the perpetrator had spent 10 years building a reputation. Reliable, trustworthy, helpful. That is the smiling enemy in its purest documented form. Not someone hiding in the shadows. Not someone your instincts flag as dangerous. Someone whose public face is the precise and deliberate opposite of what they are doing in private. She described the moment she saw the audit results. She said she did not feel vindicated. She did not feel relieved. She felt something she struggled to name. Because for 10 years, every time something went wrong, she had asked herself the same quiet question: am I losing my mind? And now she had the answer. She was never losing her mind. Someone was taking it. One file at a time. 1 year at a time. One smile at a time. Dr. Jennifer Freyd's research makes one thing clear. Betrayal blindness is not a failure of intelligence. It is a failure of a system, built for a world where the people closest to us could be trusted completely. We do not live in that world. The research tells us that victims of long-term covert betrayal share one experience, almost without exception. They knew something was wrong, not as a thought they could name, not as a suspicion they could justify, but as a feeling, a moment, sometimes dozens of moments, where something shifted beneath the surface, where the warmth flickered, where the smile remained, but something behind the eyes went somewhere else entirely. And every time, they talked themselves out of it. Pay attention to those moments, not with paranoia, with clarity. Because your nervous system is not broken, it is not anxious, it is not overreacting. It is telling you something that your mind has been trained to ignore. Listen to it. The next case study does not involve a colleague. It does not involve a stranger. It involves the person most people consider completely safe. And the pattern it follows has been operating in your world far longer than you know.